Can you talk to me about how Vultr has sprung forward from being small beer into being big beer?
Yeah, it's an interesting story. So the Vultr platform was actually launched in 2014. And the Vultr platform was widely adopted by developers simply because it had the best performance, had the greatest resilience.
The coolest name as well.
A very cool name and a very simple, transparent, predictable pricing. It was just basically good value and a great user experience. But the funny thing about Vultr is that Vultr was always from the very beginning very different than like a DigitalOcean and Linode. Vultr was actually built with enterprise requirements in mind, specifically because the heritage of the company that built Vultr was previously in the hosting business, supporting some of the most demanding enterprise workloads on the planet. One of the most demanding, of course, being Activision and supporting a worldwide online gaming franchise where latency like really matters. So, have to have unbelievable performance, unbelievable resilience, in order to ensure just a smooth, seamless, amazing user experience for games like Call of Duty. So the Vultr platform was built with enterprise requirements in mind, which basically meant a couple of things, which basically meant from the ground up, it was architected with security and compliance at the core, right? That becomes very important when we talk later about sovereign cloud and data residency, because the fundamental architecture of the platform, when it was actually built and launched, had all of those requirements in mind. The other thing that was really critical for it is also the global reach. So specifically, that's why, we were never geographically bound and just building data centers in North America. Our data centers from day one, we were global. And currently now 32 data center regions all around the planet, all 6 continents. And the third part of it is from an enterprise perspective, we were always focused on ensuring that we had all of the services required for enterprise developers to build and scale their cloud native applications. That means, more sophisticated, access control. That means more sophisticated, identity access management and a variety of other things. Also now becoming really, really important. The thing that Vultr didn't have in 2014 is it didn't have any outside capital. It was completely self-funded.
Yeah.
And all of the money went into CapEx. So it was only just recently in the past couple of years that we started building an actual sales and marketing function. And so now that we have sales and marketing, now we're actually telling people everything that we're capable of doing as a platform.
So you kind of have this ground up or bottom up approach in that you have the developers on board. It was a developer first platform, but it was a fast one, and it was so it was built really with the developer in mind, but not the sort of idiot at home developer like me. It was the proper grown up developer working in a company, working in enterprise. It was their platform. And so therefore, because that was your audience, it came with certain requirements in terms of latency and speed.
100% correct. 100% correct. And this becomes really important in this day and age of AI infrastructure as well. A lot of, AI infrastructure market, you think about it as kind of more of a tops down sales approach, going directly to founders, going directly to CEOs. We have to remember that actually the developer matters now more than ever, because the developer more than ever is every day having to learn new things and experiment with new technologies like MCP servers, MCP clients, the latest DeepSeek model. And so having a platform that developers love and that developers want to use and want to play with, that has all of the services they need, the incredible user experience that they need, the documentation they need, the community they need, that matters now, I would actually argue, more than ever.
Yeah. So we're not talking about vibe coding here. We're talking about real life.
Real life coding. Right.
Real life grown up coding. So let's talk about deploying AI.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the problems that I'm hearing a lot over the course of this 2-day event, and also I've been hearing over the last 6-8 months, is that some of the problems, some of the obstacles to a decent AI deployment are things like, and here's just a few, statutory compliance, governance. And governance is kind of, I always used to think governance meant a bit like statutory compliance, but governance seems to have morphed into meaning data sanitization.
Yeah.
But nevertheless, so we've got statutory compliance, we've got governance, we have a problem with personnel in that people aren't trained or skilled, and those that are have got the pick of the job, so there's a shortage. And data silos in that, there are lots of bottles of information everywhere, and sometimes the two don't meet, or the 500 don't meet. Are those problems the ones that need addressing before? It's almost like the groundwork that needs preparing before companies could start deploying AI in a meaningful way.
Absolutely. Here in Silicon Valley, there's the old motto, move fast and break things. Unfortunately, with like AI, it's not moving fast and breaking things. It's moving fast and shattering things, because the genie, once it is let out of the bottle with AI, might not necessarily be able to be put back in. So the governance, the security around your data, around compliance, it matters now more than ever. We have to do this in a thoughtful manner. We have to do this right. So that's where Vultr comes into play on a variety of different angles. I liken this back to the early days of the web. When the web became a reality, it forced enterprises to do entirely new and unfamiliar things. They had to think about security. They had to think about compliance. They had to think about governance. There was this new thing called the website, and suddenly you were publishing content to this website. What was the governance around that? What was the security around that? What was the compliance around that? We didn't have any skill sets around that. So there were all of these things. It's very much similar to that moment. And so what we do here at Vultr is a couple of things. So first and foremost, on the compliance side, as I said, since 2014, we put compliance at the core of the platform, trust and safety. So we help educate with our own compliance officer. We will speak with customers and we will show them a path on how they can ensure good security, good compliance with all of the AI infrastructure that they're deploying on Vultr. We literally map our chief compliance officer, our chief security officer, and we'll actually help answer customer questions, educate them, and help them on a path. Now, it also helps because we're not like all of these neoclouds. There's 148 of them at the last count. We didn't just spring up 2 years ago and say, we're going to raise a whole bunch of capital into a whole bunch of GPUs on a rack and sell it out. No, our GPU infrastructure inherits 10 years of operational history, all of our compliance, all of our certifications. It's trusted, it's hardened, and it's going to keep you protected, when you deploy your AI workloads against malicious attacks and so on and so forth. The second thing is the governance, particularly around the data. So if you heard my talks here, at AI Cloud Expo, there's a real, big conversation around this, which is what we optimize, is we help optimize your data pipelines so that you can put in place the governance and control on what data sets are being used to train what models where, so you can have a record, you can have that security, you can have that governance on your data flows. And on the skill set side, the key for what we do is we do a lot in terms of technical documentation. Our job, we feel, is to help the community self-educate and experiment and learn how to do new things. So we do a ton of hackathons, developer meetups, and just produce articles every single day and tech talks because we want to help close that skills gap.
Yeah. I thought personally, as a writer, that stressing of the importance of documentation is music to my ears, personally, because, obviously you can tell by my delicately dyed grey hair that I am of a certain generation. And so therefore, when I go looking for instructions, I don't like YouTube videos.
Right.
I like text.
That's right. I agree with you. So our documentation program, I'm actually quite proud of it. So I run the documentation program, the whole DevRel team. And when we started extending into AI infrastructure 3 years ago, because of customer demand from our large enterprise customers that were seeking to, capitalize on, this ChatGPT moment, we revamped our entire documentation program. And what that meant was we built a worldwide community of what we call Vultr creators. And at the core of the Vultr creator program is our use of our own AI infrastructure so that we surface what is of topical interest to developers all around the globe.
What they're asking for.
Yeah. And then we basically post to a bulletin board. Here's all of the topics that we would like to assign. Then people bid on the projects, and they bid on the project not with money. They bid on the projects with outlines of how they would approach describing and helping developers learn about the topic. And then we have an agent that reviews that, surfaces that up to a human, and then we make an assignment. And then there's this automated process by which they follow our style guide, and then they submit an article, and then the article gets tested and reviewed, and the article has to have all the code snippets and all the code blocks. And we run tests against it to confirm it all works. And then we publish it. So what this means is every single week, whatever is most topical interest to a developer, we have someone assigned to that.
Yeah.
And we will within a week have something published, all of the technical documentation you need in order to learn about it.
And the chances are, so I'm going on.
And we have hundreds of people around the world. Hundreds.
We're probably going to have to cut a little bit of this because I am going to go down the rabbit hole. So your documentation is it's not, click here, push this button. I'm assuming that a lot of it, or some of it at least, is quite technical. And so it's actually going to be developers wanting to learn something.
Yes.
Going away and learning about it, writing as they go, writing the documentation, submitting it back to you. So it's kind of written by the people on the ground.
It's written by the people that are actually doing it, and they actually have to put into place the code snippets, and there's a nice little helpful copy, and then you could just paste. So if you actually want to do anything, if you know how to copy and paste into a terminal window, you can do anything on the Vultr platform. And what this also means is our AI agents constantly are testing our documentation because they actually run tests against the code. So if anything actually comes out of date, it gets reassigned to the author. So it's actually all work. The better part about this
You are proud of this.
I am very proud. We also have our new agent, Agent Morty, which is a very cute little plushie that you run our Make a Morty experience over there. But this cute little plushie is also has a lot of embedded electronics, and they connect to your Vultr account. And if you ask Morty a question like, how can I set up an MCP server? He'll not only tell you the answer, he'll also email you all the technical documentation. And then he'll ask you, would you like him to execute the documentation and set one up on your Vultr account? And because the documentation is all code, the agent actually can execute everything on your behalf. So if you want to talk about vibe coding, how about vibe coding by talking to a cute little plushie that can actually serve as a pillow?
This is the future.
That's a new pillow talk, my friend.
This is the future right here.
That's right. We'll have to give you a Morty. You'll have to come over to Make a Morty here in just a moment.
We're leaving now.
Yeah.
So let's talk, before we go down documentation alley, let's talk about sovereignty.
Yes.
I was at the GITEX event, of which there are now many dozens.
Yes.
The latest one was in Berlin I was at. The expo floor was full of the word sovereign.
Yeah.
It was a huge thing amongst the mostly European exhibitors and speakers at that event. It was bordering in some places on anti-American, but I think that has been a growing trend in Europe over the last 6-8 months or so. So that was sort of bubbling under the surface. But nevertheless, there was this idea that data held locally, if not on premise, if not in a private data center, then at least on the soil that we recognize.
Yeah.
Is that something that you're seeing from
100%.
Your customers?
100%. So there's three parts to this. So first and foremost, back in 2014, a very critical decision was made by the founding team of Vultr, which is all data that is held in region will be resident in region, sovereign in region, and will never be accessed or processed by any external service outside of that region. So that's day one architecture. So highest support for data residency, highest support for data sovereignty. You own your data. We do not touch your data. We do not transmit your data. We do not process your data with any third-party service out of the breaches. That's a critical requirement. The second part of it is sovereign cloud needs to happen. It's like, could you imagine a world where when the internet was being born, we said, UK doesn't need routers. The UK doesn't need HTTP servers. We don't need it. No. You wouldn't say, oh, we don't need wireless connectivity in Thailand. Why? No. It's utility. Everyone needs it. Everyone needs AI infrastructure. Full stop. It is a matter, a societal welfare. It's a matter of economic growth. It's a matter of equality. Every nation needs to ensure that they have sovereign AI infrastructure so that their universities, so that their research institutions, so that their digital ecosystems have a level playing field to basically, propel their economies and their societies forward in the 21st century. I mean, I think right now, when you look at the news is focused on this issue of sovereignty for, I think, reasons that are only a fraction of what really matters going forward, which is every society needs to have access to AI infrastructure for societal welfare, right? This is critical. This is the new infrastructure. You wouldn't, when we came out with electricity, it's not like you said, oh no, there will only be electricity in the United States, right? When we came out with telephones, we said, oh no, only the United States will have telephones. No, telephones were widely seen as, a necessary innovation. So every country wound up having a telephone service provider, a water utility provider. Yeah. That's like AI too. So we are super committed to this notion of helping every country build and deploy their sovereign AI infrastructure, to make it accessible to universities. This is why we do hackathons all around the web. We're doing a hackathon in Seoul. We just deployed, 40 L40Ss just to actually enable university students in Seoul to hack. We just did a simultaneous hackathon in Berlin, Paris, and London. We're doing another one in Paris just in a couple of weeks. We've got to enable Mexico City, Sao Paulo, Santiago, Johannesburg. I can go through all of the cities where we have data centers. They all need sovereign cloud infrastructure. So if you can tell by my voice, I'm very passionate about that. Now, the third part about it is, obviously, we're an American company. And there is the backlash specifically against the hyperscalers. And you know what? That backlash is right. We have an industry that's been dominated by predominantly 3 players. And those players have induced enormous cost and complexity in terms of cloud infrastructure. And when everyone made the mad rush to cloud, there was this promise of cheap ephemeral resources you could spin up and spin down, and there was going to be all this massive ROI. And as we all know, the $1 trillion paradox from Andreessen Horowitz, most people didn't get the ROI, right? And now we just went through years of discussion about, contract renegotiations, repatriation of workloads from the cloud. That's all crazy.
Yeah, exit charges.
This is all crazy stuff. The reality is these 3 had similar pricing models, and those pricing models were exorbitantly complex. We're between 50 and 90% cheaper than Amazon, Google, and Azure, and we're wildly profitable. The prices that they charge were astronomical. So we have the better performance, the same reach, same global compliance and security, same resiliency. We're just a fraction of the cost. And that's important because how do you give worldwide, Mexico City and Sao Paulo, when we service 185 countries around the globe, we can't charge what the hyperscalers charge. That's not fair. This is not fair. And it's unnecessary, by the way. So we are super supportive of this whole notion of now people are waking up and saying, you know what? I want to get out of the hyperscalers. Now, we think that they should get into Vultr because when we're doing our sovereign cloud infrastructure, we work with third-party partners in region to support the jurisdictional control that they need tied to, the geographical control, with respect to residency. And of course, because we're compliance centric, whatever local, regulations in the UK or Israel or whatever countries we operate, we work with all those as well. So this is a super good conversation. It's a conversation that's not going to go away. It's a conversation that we personally are going to accelerate and have been speaking about for nearly 2 years now. Every country, everywhere we go, sovereign AI, we've got to make this happen.
Yeah. And finally, we were talking about profits. We were talking about pricing. Mm-hmm. According to my research, which was a web search this morning at 8:30.
Yeah.
And I quote.
Yes.
In January, the Financial Times said Vultr is valued at 3.5 billion, which it thought was a little high, but then conservative small c Financial Times.
Yeah.
But let's go with 3.5 billion.
Yeah.
There's been a big deal recently with AMD, with the EPYC 4005 chips. This is obviously a company that is going places.
Mm-hmm.
So, Kevin, 5 years' time, I want a prediction. I want it cast in stone. Where is Vultr going to be in 5 years?
We are going to be the next hyperscaler. So we already have the global footprint. We already have the core services. We already have the ecosystem. But we will have the scale in terms of a revenue profile of an Amazon or a Google. But we will not be Amazon and Google. We are a global platform. We are a global team, and we will be supporting sovereign cloud initiatives worldwide. Our mission since day one has been to democratize access to world-class cloud compute for every developer, everywhere they live and work, indifferent to geographical boundaries. And we will ensure that we can bring world-class AI infrastructure to developers all around the globe so that as a global platform, we can help people invent a new future.
That's very well put. Thank you very much, Kevin Cochrane from Vultr.
Thank you so much.